Boba Fett isn't the most notorious assassin, he's the most notorious bounty hunter, and that doesn't always mean killing everyone that comes across your path. Hello, and welcome to Coffee on Korriban. I've got a little bit of a spicy hot take for Book of Boba Fett. So, first off, right off the bat, I know there's a lot of controversy around the Book of Boba Fett. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people are kind of like, it's not really doing what I wanted it to do. And I think that's the problem. So to sum it up, it's up to what you are wanting out of the show. If you're wanting this to be Mandalorian Season 3, wait for Mandalorian Season 3. A lot of the criticisms I've heard that people are giving for the show being bad, in their opinion, has to do with either the show isn't doing what they wanted or Boba Fett isn't the character that they thought he was. So my hot take is it's you that's the problem. And I know that sounds pretty harsh, but if you're wanting Boba Fett to be Space John Wick, watch The Mandalorian again, because that's kind of who Din Djarin is in how he fights and stuff. Boba Fett isn't the most notorious assassin, he's the most notorious bounty hunter, and that doesn't always mean killing everyone that comes across your path. Boba Fett is really wanting to establish his empire, just like Jabba had, and he's saying, I want to rule with respect. He said that in the trailers, he said that in this first episode, and it doesn't really make sense for him to just start killing everyone who comes in front of him. That's not really what he wants to do, because if he did start doing that and just, they're coming against me, I'm going to kill them, all the other little crime bosses, the little crime leaders, are going to say, who's this Boba guy? We know he's a good bounty hunter, but he's wanting to become the new Jabba. We can't let this happen. They're going to gang up together and try to take him out. So he really needs to come in and establish that he's a leader as opposed to just a guy that's wanting to build an empire, I guess. Second, a lot of people are saying there's too many flashbacks, but this is what we've been wanting to see, is how did he escape the Sarlacc pit? What was going on after that? And I really don't think there's any way other than flashbacks to do it. Now, if the whole entire series is flashbacks, okay, that could probably be a problem and could be fixed with better writing. But the way they're telling the story might not be what you're looking for. If you don't like this type of flashbacks and a lot of showing rather than telling, like, if you want narration, watch it and then narrate it to your own self, I guess, because they're showing us all the stuff that happened with less dialogue, which is better than just a narrator saying, I got out of the Sarlacc pit and then I befriended the Tuscans and I took the gaffy stick. Like, that's not good. You would be complaining about that. I guess it kind of circles back to Star Wars fans aren't going to be happy no matter what, but if this show isn't up your alley, go watch Mandalorian again. And people were also complaining that Boba Fett wasn't the cold killer that everyone wanted him to be. Again, he's a bounty hunter. He's not an assassin. That's what Fennec Shand is for, so she can destroy everyone, and I'm sure we're going to get our scenes of Boba Fett killing people and being a boss, because he is. But to say that he's not the Boba Fett you wanted because he got beaten by a chieftain, he was in the Sarlacc pit for however many hours or days, and then escaped, and then got dragged through the desert without water. All the acid still burned on his skin from the Sarlacc pit, because I don't know if you guys know what the Sarlacc pit does, but it keeps you alive as it digests you, essentially. And so the psychological torture from that, as well as the acid burns and dragged through the desert with no water, and then having to fight the chieftain. It's a chieftain with the gaffy stick. Like, it's not just some guy with a stick. But when his life is completely in danger, like it was with the behemoth monster, of course he's going to get the job done. And then I also want to talk about some characters, specifically some droids, because a lot of people had an issue with the droid in Jabba's palace that was saying, like, their tortured screams will send a powerful message to all who dare to challenge your throne. People were saying it looks weird, the design of the character, it doesn't fit in Star Wars. That is an OG character. That's the torture droid from
Jabba's palace
that was like torching the gonk droid's feet or whatever. That's an OG character. You can't complain against that because that was there from the beginning. I did, however, have an issue with the Boston Dynamics robots. It looked out of place, and it's not that there aren't droids like that in Star Wars. It's just that's from our time. That's something that we know of, that I don't think it fits in Star Wars. And Star Wars has to have a certain aesthetic to it. It's a blend, as X-Wing has said before, of futuristic technology and way outdated technology. Like the button control panels inside the Millennium Falcon or inside the Death Star are all like retro 70s designs, but their function is from the future. And so anything that is like our current technology right now in 2022 seems out of place. And beyond that, Star Wars is a blend of dystopian future and past, and emphasis on dystopian. This is a time of turmoil in the galaxy that, yes, they have futuristic technology like space travel, hyperdrives, blasters, that sort of thing, but it's also like a scramble for resources. As Adam Savage said on I believe it was the Corridor Crew channel recently, Star Wars is different than Star Trek in that all the ships are, mismatched panels and everything's dirty and used. They're all fighting over these resources. It's not polished. And so when things are polished, they stand out. For example, the Naboo cruiser or different parts of Coruscant that are really upscale, it stands out. And so for these Boston Dynamics robots, like sure, they put little wings on them, but they're like really polished looking, if that makes sense. Their function is very smooth as opposed to like, let's say a Gonk droid, which is, waddling around. It just looks out of place. So not a huge issue that I had with it. I don't think that they should have put that in there or else really dressed up how it moved and how it looked more than just adding little wing flaps on it. And next, another thing that was really, really cool was we got to see Max Rebo make it to his gig, but not only that, pair up with the legend himself, Figrin Dan, of Figrin Dan in the modal nodes. Like, this is so cool. And we know it's Figrin Dan because that's his song. That's the Cantina music. That's Figrin Dan in the modal nodes. So the fact that they paired up together, the two big names on Tatooine, was really dope. Another thing I wanted to point out was Boba Fett's new armor, after it's been repainted, that is, his underrobes are black now, as opposed to the light gray kind of jumpsuit that he was wearing before. Also notice what the Tuscan Raiders are wearing in this episode. Could that be a Tuscan cloak that he's wearing under all his armor? That would be really cool. And we also know that how he repainted the color scheme of his armor with the yellow and the red, it now signifies honoring your ancestry and your culture, which, who's to say that that's not the Tuscan Raider culture that he's honoring? But I just think there's so many dots that we still have yet to see how they connect, and for people to just kind of judge it and say, oh, we don't want this Tuscan Raider stuff. Like, why not? This is culture in Star Wars that we haven't seen before. Like, enjoy it. And then also there's that theory about that one Tuscan tribe that was kind of slaughtered by Darth Vader, and there was the one survivor, and then he told the other tribe, and they took him as captive, and then they kind of worshiped Darth Vader as this deity, and they dressed black, and I can't verify all the details of this because I haven't read it myself, but how cool would that be if Boba got captured, and then now he's with this one Tuscan Raider tribe that essentially worships Darth Vader? My point is there's so many ways that they could tie this up, and until we see the dots connect and see the lines that go through everything, we can't really jump to a conclusion of, oh, this is pointless. And who cares if it's in a quote-unquote flashback? We got to see all this stuff anyway, and if the flashbacks get us into the time of like Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, like, people aren't going to be complaining. I think people just need to chill. And if after the series they don't connect those dots and there's a lot of loose ends of things that they could have done, then I'll call it out, just like I do with the sequel trilogy, just kind of wasted potential. But you can't just watch the first episode and say, oh, they're not doing anything with it, because it's the first episode. Like, they haven't done anything with it yet. And again, if they don't do anything with it, then that will be a mistake. Another criticism of the show is it's not meant for the mass amount of people, because people aren't going to pick up on the Max Rebo, Figrin Dan stuff. And so this first episode kind of failed to draw in the general public into watching the show. If you are a casual fan, watch the movies and then enjoy that. This might not be for you. And I get that from a marketing standpoint, from a business trying to make money, that's probably not the best strategy. Like, you want to make something that appeals to the most people so you make the most money. But the people that are making this are hardcore Star Wars fans, and so they're going to make it tailored toward that audience. And unfortunately, if Disney doesn't think that it's making the money, they'll cancel whatever future stuff they have planned, which would be really unfortunate. But the people that are making this are passionate about it. And this is obviously different than, oh, you have to read the book to understand what's going on, because no one likes that. All the little details that make it more enjoyable, you're going to pick that up if you're more into the lore. And a lot of people are saying they don't like the Tuscans coming in and stealing the show. But we've never seen this in Star Wars before. I've said so many times, Star Wars is about the world building for me. Make me feel like it's a real place and that I can be there. And they're really doing that. Because really the only other Tuscan culture we've gotten was in The Mandalorian and in Knights of the Old Republic. I think just the fact that the chieftain gave the drink of water to Boba at the end was kind of like, okay, you're in the club now. Because that's not really something you do to an outsider, especially not one that you had prisoner the day before. I believe there were rumors that this was supposed to be a 6-episode series, and that makes sense if you consider the fact that they probably split up the pilot episode into 2 episodes. So take that into consideration when you're watching this week's episode of Boba Fett, that this is probably supposed to originally have been the pilot, and they just split it into 2 parts. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case either. But to the people that didn't like the episode, I have 2 things to say. First, if you don't like it after the 2nd episode, maybe this show's not for you, because there was a lot of stuff in there that, for me, as a hardcore Star Wars fan, got me tickled, I guess is how they say it here in Tennessee. I don't know. And then 2, temper your expectations. Don't be looking to get what you want out of the show. Look to get what the show delivers you, and if you still don't like it, then that's up to you. Headcanon is the best canon, all the power to you. But I think that so many people have a romanticized version of Boba Fett in their head that this Boba Fett that's maybe a little more on the forgiving side, maybe a little bit more on the let's think this through instead of just blasting my way out of this situation like Din Djarin would. They have a romanticized version of Boba Fett in their head that is probably not the character that we're getting, probably not the character that Boba Fett is as far as Star Wars on screen. Because let's face it, Boba Fett only had 4 lines of dialogue in the original trilogy. Everything else that we know about Boba Fett is based off of comics and books, and we don't know how much of that is actually going to make it into the new Disney canon. And again, if you don't like that, that's fine. Your headcanon is the best canon. That's up to you. But we've heard multiple times Boba Fett is a clean slate of a character for the writers and directors of this show. So it's open to what happens with his character. So there's a lot to like about this episode, and I get that people have criticisms of it, but I guess my main takeaway from this video would be check to see if your criticisms are legitimate and based off of objective things that are wrong with the episode, or just stuff that you're expecting out of the show that's a little bit different, because both are valid. If there's stuff that you want out of the show and it's not delivering, that's fine. That's completely up to you. But if there's objective things, we can talk about those and discuss those without having to say stuff like that article that said the Book of Boba Fett is an abysmal failure on every level or something like that. That's just a little uncalled for. I will point out an issue that I did have. It was the first fight scene with Boba against the other people with the shields. It just felt a little awkward and kind of pointless. Like they were there boxing him in with the shields. For what reason? Like they weren't really attacking other than like kind of like deflecting with their shields. It was kind of weird. If they were there to assassinate, they kind of did a bad job of ambushing. But the fight choreography was just a little weird, and I got little tinges of the throne room from The Last Jedi. It's just a little weird. I think that's something objective that we can look at. Think about what the criticisms that you have against the show are, and find out if they're rational or not, or if it's just you wanting certain things, I guess. I don't know. This is a long video. Anyway, to wrap it up, I'm still really excited for this show, and I think that people just kind of need to calm down because it was the first episode. It didn't really need to have a pilot launcher episode because it's branching off of The Mandalorian. We've already been introduced to Boba Fett. So I'm really happy with what we got. Let me know in the comments how you liked the first episode, if you're excited for episode 2. But that's going to do it for this video. Sorry, a little different take. Here I am on Hoth, I guess. What coffee drink starts with an H? I don't know. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate your time. And I will see you wherever I happen to see you in the galaxy.